Namaste and welcome to Tridevi Chamundamandir in Denver, Colorado. I'm Yamajit. I'm so glad that you could join us this evening for this is part 8 of our series of the 12 Kalis of the Krama lineage. And tonight we're going to be doing a puja and satsang to Ma Martanda Kali, a Kali of Transcendence. I'd like to start out with a couple of brief announcements. This coming Tuesday, 7 o'clock, we'll be doing part 14 of our series of meditations of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. 7 o'clock, you can either join us here on YouTube or you're welcome to join us in person at our temple, 1260 South Xavier Street in Denver, Colorado. And then next Friday, 7 o'clock, we'll be doing our monthly Yoga Nidra practice. And the theme of our Yoga Nidra will be the winter season transitioning into the spring season. So again, namaste and welcome. And it's wonderful to have some people here in person. So tonight's theme, we've gone through, will be the eighth of the 12 goddesses that we've been discussing in this series. And hang on just a moment here. Bring my notes up. Here we go. So the 12 Kalis are honored in the 1,000-year-old hymn, the Krama Stotram. And this hymn was part of the Krama lineage of non-dual Shaiva Tantra, also known as Kashmir Shaivism. So the lineage of the Krama tradition is the first to teach the idea of Kundalini energy rising upwards, piercing the chakras as part of meditation. Really, this is synonymous with the idea of raising consciousness from pure materialism to the transcendent divine. So I want to do a brief recap of our previous pujas and satsangs. The sage Abhinavagupta, who lived 1,000 years ago, of the Trika lineage, described 3 main functions of divine consciousness: the power of Icha Shakti, the power of will; Jnana Shakti, the power of knowledge; and Kriya Shakti, the power of action. And then there was also a 4th function, the power of transcendence. And this was personified by the goddess Karshani Kali, also known as Mahakali, or the Great Kali. So these 4 functions are then multiplied by 3 phases of emission or creation, stasis or preservation, and reabsorption or destruction, followed by renewal. Therefore, 3 times 4 is 12, 12 in number. Those 3 phases can also be classified as the objective, which our first 4 goddesses were associated with. We're finishing up the 2nd phase, the cognitive, with Martanda Kali, and then the remaining 4 Kalis of this series will be in the realm of subjectivity. So thus far, we have honored first Srishti Kali, who's associated with the creation of objects. The second was Rakta Kali, or the experience of objects with the 5 senses. This is related to preservation. The third, Sithitanasya Kali, termination of the experience of objects. This is associated with the power of destruction. And then the 4th, Yamakali, personifies the power of transcendence. And so this ended that first cycle of objectivity. Going into the 2nd cycle, we talked about Samhara Kali. She began the 2nd phase, the cycle of cognition. And her position in this state is once again creation, only now the objects aren't different from us. They're on one hand outside of us, but also a part of us as well. So this signifies the destruction of duality. The sixth Kali, Mrityu Kali, represented the state of preservation through the destruction of distractive or detrimental forces. The seventh Kali, who we spoke of 2 weeks ago, Rudra Kali, also known as Bhadra Kali, is the destroyer of doubts and suspicions, those doubts and suspicions that hold us back on our journey to both self-actualization and divine consciousness. So tonight, the eighth Kali, Martanda Kali. This form of Kali absorbs the energies of cognition into herself. She's the transcendent force that ends this cognitive cycle. The name Martanda refers also to 8 forms of the god Bhairava, or Bhairab, who is the wrathful form of Lord Shiva. This is a Lord Bhairab from Nepal, and we see him upon his mount, which is a dog. So Martanda literally translates to mean dead egg, referring to something which has died and is awaiting rebirth or renewal. So this eighth Kali is the one who puts an end to limited egocentric consciousness. In traditional Indian philosophy, there are 12 forms or 12 organs of cognitive functioning. There's the 5 senses: smell, taste, touch, hearing, and sight. These are called the Jnanendras, or organs of knowledge. Then there are 5 organs of action, or Karmandrayas, which include speech, hand motion, foot motion, excretion, and creativity. So 5 and 5 is 10. And then there's 2 additional functions of the mind: manas, the intellect, manas, the mind, and the intellect, which is buddhi. And when we look at these sets of organs, the first 5, the 5 senses, then the organs of action, then the 2 mental organs, we have, in fact, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Icha Shakti again, respectively. The name Martanda is also one of the alternate names for Surya, the god of the sun. And therefore, the functions of the 12 Indrayas, or organs associated with consciousness, are also associated with the sun because they illuminate objects into our realm of awareness. Martanda Kali is therefore the power which dissolves the 12 sense organs residing in the ego. And in doing this, she prepares us for entry into universal consciousness, as cognitive/sensory awareness is then drawn into subjective awareness independent of external stimuli. So to explain this mechanism, we can actually look to the Puja ceremony that we're going to be doing this evening. So in our ceremony, we're going to be looking upon the ceremonial activities, the objects on the altar, including our devotional images, and that's the sense of sight. We're going to stimulate our auditory sense through the chanting of mantras. We'll be sitting in a meditational posture and opening our breath to stimulate the physical senses. And those 4 of you who are with us tonight, and actually in our temple, will smell burning incense and the odors of herbs and fragrant woods that we'll be offering to our ritual fire. which being indoors will be some burning coals. And then those four of you will also share, we're going to be sharing those apples on the altar, so we'll be sharing in prasad, and that's the sense of taste. So in this act of ritual, we're stimulating the five senses to awaken a deeper form of perception, what some refer to as the sixth sense, our awareness of the transcendent both within and without, and the presence of the divine, experiencing that within. So the sense of I versus that as a result of our meditation is going to just simply dissolve. The Shakta, or goddess focused tantrics, and this is a Shakta temple. The original Shaktas were the great pioneers in utilizing this playful engagement of the senses as a doorway to transcendent consciousness. Going back to that great 10th century, 11th century tantric sage Abhinavagupta, he wrote about Martanda Kali. Experience of the subject is conditioned by the experience of embodied conditions, and so she invites you to receive all sensual experiences, taste, smell, touch, sight, hearing, just like the earth receives the sun, that is freely, fully, and reflectively, the combination of the senses drawn inward during meditation to create something you want for the sake of your own divine empowerment. So that was the great Abhinavagupta. So to talk about some additional symbolism, Martanda Kali is also related to one specific form of the wrathful Lord Shiva, known as Martanda Bhairab. And this is probably the most, when you put that name in your web browser, this is the temple image that most often comes up first. So one form of this consort or Shakti of Martanda Bhairab would be Martanda Bhairavi. That I on the end denotes the feminine form of that energy. So Martanda Bhairava is the patron deity of both warriors and farmers, and as a form of Shiva, his weapon is the Trishula, or trident. And we've talked about in previous satsangs those 3 points on the trident, signifying the powers of creation, preservation, and destruction. It's also a model of the subtle energy channels of the body, the nadis, the central point of the trident being Shushumna Nadi, that Kundalini rises upwards through in meditation, and then 2 lesser nadis, the solar and lunar channels on the right and left sides of the body, Pingala and Ida. And those 3 functions we talked about again, Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. I'm going to put in front of the camera here. This is a Bhairavi image from Nepal. And she's also called Tripura Bhairavi because she embodies those same 3 functions. And I'll pass those around after this. So Martanda Bhairab's mount is the horse, and this is also the mount of Surya, the sun god, similar to the horses that drive Apollo's chariot in Greco-Roman mythology. As a folk deity, he's the composite of Lord Bhairava, the wrathful Shiva, Surya, the sun, and Kartikeya, also known as Skanda, and he's the warrior child of Shiva and Shakti, or Shiva and Parvati, the brother of Lord Ganesha. Martanda Bhairab is also depicted as a form of Shiva Lingam. In devotional images, Martanda Bhairava, also known as Kandoba, is also shown having 4 arms. He's carrying a little drum called a damaru, which represents the progression and the cycles of time. That trident, which I mentioned, a bowl of turmeric powder. And turmeric has 2 associations. We take turmeric and we redden it to form kumkum powder, which is used in blessings, anointing the forehead, for example. And then turmeric is also associated with healing. It's a very powerful healing herb, very powerful anti-inflammatory. There's a lot of people, myself included, who take turmeric to help with arthritis. He also holds a khadga, or sword, which is related to destroying our inner demons, just as Kali carries a sword. And he's shown, like on this statuette from Nepal, either riding or here he has a dog by his side. And dogs are scavengers of the cremation ground. And so being associated with cremation, the dissolution of ego attachments, and also really this idea of transcending our greatest fear, which is the fear of death. Among our devotional images is this painting, which I'm going to bring a little closer to the camera so you can see it. But this shows Ma Bhairavi, and so the consort of Lord Bhairab. And this form of Bhairavi looks very much like what Martanda Bhairavi or Martanda Kali would look like. So she's holding a trident and a sword, and a bowl of some kind, might be a skull cup, but it could also be her bowl of turmeric as well. And Ma Bhairavi dwells upon the cremation ground, and she will teach her wisdom to anybody who will let go of their fears, especially that fear of death, and be willing to listen to her wisdom. And so, with her association with this form of Shiva, it can be assumed that Martanda Kali would also possess the same symbolism and the same functions. So, in tonight's puja, we're going to focus on the mantra to the Divine Mother in the form of Ma Bhairavi. And that mantra is going to be Hesraim, Heshklarim, Hesra. Very powerful mantra in achieving transcendent consciousness, the state of samadhi. So I invite you at this point to make yourselves comfortable. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Take some time to prepare for this work we're about to do. Honoring that form of Ma Kali that brings us to those deeper transcendent states of consciousness. So as Ma Kali's sword cuts away ego-based attachments. Let's take this time to let go of the attachments and focuses we have upon the past, things that have happened in the future, things that might need to happen. Just let those things go for now. Just let this time be for you. Focused on present moments. And increasing our awareness of that divine consciousness, not just surrounding us, but within us as well. So I invite you now to bring the palms of your hands together at your heart center. And we're going to open our practice by chanting 3 different single syllable mantras. The first one is going to be Ein, associated with creative principle. Hrim, associated with preservation. And Krim, associated with destruction and renewal. So inhale for Ein. Inhale, Hrim. Inhale, Krim. Kavitruva Sarvadastam Vitopivaya Shmare Pandrikaksham Sabhyanta Sushi. Om Pavitra Pavitruva Sarvadastam Vitopivaya Shmare Pandrikaksham Sabhyanta Sushi. Om Pavitra Pavitruva Sarvadastam Gatopiva Yashmare Pandrikaksham Saryanta Sushi. Om Shuklam Bharanam Vishnam Sashivanam Chaturjam Asnavanandaya Sarvabhignapasantai. Jai Ganesha. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshvara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Sri Guru Namah. Jai Guru. Om Triambakam Yajamaye Sagadim Pushtivardhanam Ordvarukamiva Bandhanam Machur Mukshyamamrita. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Jayanti Mangalakali Bhadrakali Kapalani Durga Shama Shivadatri Svasvada Namostute. Jai Tvam Devi Chamunde Jai Bhutitaharani Jaya Sarvagate Devi Kalaratri Namostute. Mahakaliti Samja Saparampara Kramodita Syadasatyakta Sambhavaparam Nanda Nandini. She is called the Great Annihilator, Mahakali, because she continually perpetuates the stages of existence in an endless succession. Yet, her true nature, which is beyond the categories of being and non-being, is the ecstatic delight of unmanageable bliss. Kali Mahakalam Malam Grasantim Bande Anchintyama Nilalabhyam. Praise be to Kali, who devours up the great cycles of time. She is inconceivable, indestructible, and unattainable. So, Jema. So I'm going to begin our Puja Mantra, be the same mantra we use when we give the fire offerings. Hesraim, Heshklarim, Hesral. And those three syllables are also associated with creation, maintenance, and destruction. Om Hesraim, Hesklarim, Hesral. Join us, comfortable. Om Hesraim, Hesklarim, Hesral. 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 Om Gapurguram Gurunavataram Samsara Saram Bhujigendra Haram Sada Santam Hridaya Ravinde Vivam Bhavani Saitam Namami Devi Prakanote Hare Prasida Prasida Matara Jagata Kilasya Prasida Vishvesvara Te Vishvam Vamishwara Devi Chachara Chavasya Agni Jyotir Jyotiagnir Svaha Agni Jyotir Jyoti Agnir Svaha. Agni Jyotir Jyoti Agnir Svaha. Martanda Kali. Martanda Mapita. Vatanga Chakram. Vatanga Vatkala Kalendrainaya. Karotya Vispara Santa Kamtam. Martanda Kalim Saitam. Pranami. Jema Martanda Kali. Salutations to Martanda Kali, who is destroyer of the wheel of cognition, puts an end to all objective flavors. Desirous of consuming all worldly actions, she causes the 12 sun gods in the shape of the bird wheel to be completely consumed like a moth, entering a raging fire. So we'll begin our mantra. Again, please join in as you feel comfortable, or just meditate quietly and let the sound of the mantra take your consciousness where it is needed. Esraim, Esklaim, Esrael. 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 Esvaim, esclaim, esrau. 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 I invite you to sit comfortably. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Feeling the words and the power of our mantra. Breathing, meditating, and just letting the mantra take your consciousness to where it needs to be at this moment. And as you meditate, just allow yourself to honor anything that comes into your realm of awareness, because this is what you'll need at this moment. These will be the messages from Martanda, from our Bible. So honor any metal pictures that come, thoughts, memories, ideas, and also any inner messages, or any feelings, or any emotions. Just allow them to manifest. Honor their presence, and just let them go. Just witness them from a safe distance, and be ready for whatever else comes into your realm of awareness. I invite you now to take a deep, clear breath. Slowly open your eyes and bring your attention to the flame on our altar right now. Watch the flame burning and continue the meditation which you began with your eyes closed. Let the vision of the flame take your awareness to where it needs to be at this moment and honor whatever manifests. Let the light of the flame represent that sixth sense, that sense of the transcendent, that sense of the divine, not just with it, not just around you, not just outside, but within you as well. I invite you now to hear the words of the sage Abhinavagupta, a bound soul who has any of these convictions. I am dense, I am inert matter, or I am completely bound by my karma, or I am impure, or I am the pawn of others. They seek to attain the steady conviction of the opposite of these views. If one succeeds in this, one immediately becomes the master, whose body is the whole universe, and whose soul is pure consciousness. In whatever manner such a conviction may be attained, a tantric yogi should cultivate it at all times. One should not allow one's perspective to become divorced from the real nature of things, and thus be led into doubt by the mass of foolish teachings in this world. Jai Ma. Jai Ma. Jai Ma. Jai Ma. Om Sarvamangala Mangalye Shiva Savada Sadike Saranye Trambake Devi Narayane Namostute. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sana Bhavatu Sana Bunatu Saviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Madhidvijyavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Om. Jai Ganesha. Jai Guru. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Ma Kali. Jai Ma Martanda Kali. Jai Martandi. Jai Martandi. Jai Martandi. Namaste. And thank you. So I want to thank you for joining me this evening. Hope you enjoyed our meditation. Feel free to bring up the recording of this and do this sadhana and some other time when you feel the need. Have a wonderful night. Blessings always. I look forward to you joining me on Tuesday for our meditations from the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. Have a wonderful night. Jai Ma. And thank you again.